Can you hear me already?
Hi Andreas, yes.
Hey Jean-Michel.
How are you?
C'est super bon de voir toi. Pardon, let's forget to talk French. I'm not really experienced. I always try again, but because all the friends, from France who are living here, they speak
every year, Andreas. You're getting better every year.
Yes.
I'm leaving now.
Okay, Marie-Laure, thank you.
Marie, merci beaucoup.
Okay, bye-bye, thank you.
Welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, bye-bye, take care. So, how are you, Andreas?
I'm fine. It's totally super over here. And I think if you would know what we're doing here, you would be sad to not be with us, because it's after Superbooth 2019, where you was personally present. It's really something like the next level. I think you remember we've been going outdoors, seeing the seaside stage, and then we've been behind the building. We had a few drinks and we had a nice something. And now we expanded the vision of having a trade show into the park, and the companies are based in tents. And before we realized it, they couldn't even imagine what we wanted to offer and sell them. We have to stay in a tent, and what if it rains, and is it safe, and what happens if there's a storm? And we had everything. We had rain yesterday, and but you know, everybody is happy, and there's a limited number of people, but everybody is smiling and everybody is happy with what we did and thankful that we did it. And this is a restart for all of us to get together. And this, to have you on board over here in the virtual meeting, is another level for this.
Yeah, absolutely, Andreas. And I'm really sorry not being physically with you all. And I just wanted to thank you for the name of all the electronic musicians and electronic music ecosystem. I mean, what you're doing is absolutely amazing. So thank you on behalf of all of us.
How's the feeling in France?
Great, it's getting much better. It seems that we are at last seeing some lights at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully, I think it's getting better. We still, of course, all have a problem for gigs and concerts, but it's getting better, starting to improve a little bit. And I think that the concerts are starting step by step. And I hope that by the end of the year, it will be behind us. We all finger crossed, of course. And of course, an event such as the Superbooth with all the creative guys proposing other new products and new ideas is something which is getting a very positive sign for the near future.
Great. And do you still produce, what was one of my questions, do you still produce music for live on stage, or did the whole thing that happened with us change during the Corona times, change things in general?
You know, I've been, of course, I'm looking forward going back on stage as soon as possible, but I took the opportunity to, during the pandemic, to explore different art forms, and I've been heavily involved in VR and in VR and XR. I produced two events and one major event for the last New Year's Eve, a live VR concert in the VR Notre Dame, and we've been very successful, and we've been followed by more than 75 million people all around the world. It was a real premiere, having a live VR concert in VR Notre Dame, and I was live myself in a studio in the center of Paris, and my avatar was live in Notre Dame. And VR for me has been such an interesting mode of expression in the days of the pandemic, to try to explore other ways to share music and shows in a different way. And I think that VR now is going to be one of the next new media. And you know, Andreas and everybody, I've been really interested by the fact that suddenly I had the feeling to pioneering something new, like back in time when I was starting electronic music surrounded by lots of whiz kids. I mean, just developing new art forms. It made me think about the beginning of cinema in the 19th century during the Fin Lumière, when a lot of people from the theater were saying, but these people, moving on a white screen in circus, because the first movies were projected in circus, was like a magic trick. And lots of people in the world of theater were saying, but these guys moving on a white screen, they're not really actors. A real actor is somebody on stage in front of a real audience. And cinema became the major art form we know. And I think VR is going to be the same. It's going to not only to compete. It's not to compete to live performance, but actually to be really something which is going to be a new art form, generating new artists, newcomers, and actually I was in Berlin. Unfortunately, 3 days ago I had to come back to Paris because I just released the Blu-ray and the vinyl of Welcome to the Other Side, the concept of this concert in virtual Notre Dame. So actually, this is something very interesting, and I hope that in the next few years, in Superbooth, you will have probably some VR products emerging and coming along, because it's a really new media, and for musicians, it's also another way to share our music in a different way. Because there is a social aspect, and I will finish with this briefly. But there is a social aspect with VR. You can connect with people who are isolated for geographic reasons, for physical, for handicap, and all sharing the same moment all together, wherever you are, in China, in Brazil, in America, or in Europe, or anywhere else. And this is a very exciting new art form, I think. And actually, strangely enough, the pandemic played a role as an accelerator for this new art form.
I think that's very much the idea of the Superbooth this year.
Exactly.
To have this great exchange to many different countries are coming together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you planning live shows again with all this bunch of analog stuff?
Yes, I'm planning I have different projects for 2022 where, it's really strange what happened with this. I don't know what the other colleagues are feeling, or all the people being around at Superbooth. But for me, I know that when I'm going to go back on stage, it's not going to be the same as before. And I think I really would like to think and to stage a concert in a different way, and certainly mixing the traditional way of doing a gig and doing concert on stage with XR, VR, AR elements, and mixing being in the kind of phygital type of situation where you have a live concert, a live gig, but also at the same time having some live VR elements at the same time.
By the way, I should say hello to you from Ken Macbeth that you met in Edinburgh.
Cool, great.
And Daniel Miller said he would have a question to you if you are around, but now he's not around.
Okay, so give my love to them, to both of them. I mean, they are great friends, and it's always a pleasure to get together. And of course, Superbooth is a unique opportunity to gather everybody, all of guys, established artists or known artists, but also DJs and beginners and younger audience. It's always a great moment.
And there's already the date for May 22, where we will make the next one. Perhaps you can ask Marie to make a note for that.
Yeah, of course, with pleasure.
We hope, because we're also having a chat tomorrow with Atom, or the day after tomorrow with Atom TM, about, is it okay if we still fly around to spread the cultural vision of what we're doing? Because, flying from here to there, but from Paris you could also, would you take a train if you go to Paris, or would you say, oh man, that's too hard and too long, I better take the plane? How far are you over there? How far is the self-understanding in France or in your size of business, in the end?
I think two brief comments about that. I think first of all, we have to be whatever everybody thinks. We need to have vaccines. because this is the only way to get out from these dark times. And the second point is, if you respect all the mask and the alcohol and the gel and all that, I mean, you can travel these days. You know, I was in Berlin. I'm not with you today, not because of the virus. I'm not here because I'm stuck here, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have been with you all. And I think now we have to also, as long as we are safe and we take care of ourselves and take care of the others, I think we should go back to a normal life as soon as we can.
So
you know, I was sorry, but you know, I was flying to Berlin. Last Friday, and the flight was okay. People are very cautious, and the companies are very cautious. It was safe both in Paris airport and Berlin airport. You know, I think it's. I had the feeling that we have still to be careful, but it seems that the virus seems to be, for the first time, maybe a little bit behind us. I'm very cautious when I'm saying this, because we said that also last year. We have to, unfortunately, there is one key moment. It when later in November, when it's getting colder. We hope that it's not going to be like last year. But the major difference is most of the people are vaccinated, so it's a different, totally different situation.
Yeah. Instead of traveling, how is it? How did you get in touch with other musicians? Are you using online sessions for that?
Of course, yes. Online sessions, and also, as I said, also VR is also a wonderful way of getting together with your avatars. You know, you have now, it's developing big time, and what's great is actually you can be in the same room, but with people from Manchester or from Berlin or from Rio or Beijing or Moscow or Africa or whatever, and that is something. It's a real game changer.
But I think this is possible, or when you're knowing somebody. I think it's much more difficult when with somebody else you don't know. To jam online.
The beauty of an event in VR is actually anybody can join, even if you don't know them. They can be in the same room and with no latency, and that is a huge difference. And I was doing a Q&A session recently and I was in this VR space, and suddenly you had DJs or people in the same virtual room with their avatars, just with the goggles, and after 5 minutes, you forget that you are in front of people or the avatars of people being in Manchester or Düsseldorf or Warsaw or Madrid, and you're all in the same room. So the big advantage of this, I'm not selling anything on this. I'm not trying to convince anybody, because you have to try it. It's a real game changer, especially for musicians to actually share our music in a totally different way, especially in days where live concerts are still a bit a question mark. But actually, even apart from that, as I was saying before, I think it's going to be a real art form in itself. But actually, otherwise, as everybody else in society, we use Zoom and Teams to try to connect together and having working sessions. But you know, to tell you the truth, my last project, I had my colleagues working on my album. One is in Vancouver, the other one is in LA, the other one is in Manchester, Glasgow, and we worked on Live Ableton, for instance, by TeamViewer or by sharing screens process live, and with the time difference, some people could complete the session while I was sleeping, and the reverse. So in the morning, I was following the session, having progressed while I was sleeping. So it's not only this process, this way of working, especially for electronic music, is not new. It's existing for production. Even it was existing prior to the pandemic.
Great. I wanted to come to a totally different theme and ask you about how's your view on the German votes for the European world and the German-French special friendship. Do you have an opinion on that? Because we have votes next week, and you know, you had all these trouble with and without and with Macron, and you know, Europe is in a change somehow. The whole world is in a change, and we have to change something. And I don't know if you want to give it some words or if you say, oh.
No, I mean, two things quickly. I mean, first of all, we know that France and Germany are the spine of Europe in a sense, in terms of politics and economy, and it has a domino effect on the other countries. And so we have as French and German people a kind of responsibility politically, globally. I'm not talking about parties and things like this. And of course, elections in France or in Germany are going to have necessarily a kind of consequence and some consequences on the European policy. And but I think that for Superbooth and for us as artists, I think culture is the main link for Europe. I think Europe is existing first of all through culture. And more than anything else, I think when you are in Berlin, in Madrid, in Warsaw, in Roma, or in London, or in Paris, we feel that we are belonging to the same community, which is not necessarily true politically, but culture should be a Trojan horse to ease and to soothe the pain, partly after the pandemic, and you know. Music and movies and books and graphic arts and everything else is actually also a domain where Europe is still ahead of the world in terms of projects, ideas. I mean, it's very interesting to not to forget that most of those, for instance, are German, are European. German. You take Steinberg. You take Ableton, you take all these, you know, almost all those are German or coming from Europe. And it shows that even in our world of electronic music, how Europe is important, and also what you are doing as with Schneider's Laden and all the Eurorack, you know, Eurorack, in Eurorack you have Europe. And you know, we have a legitimacy. We created this electronic music. I mean, electronic music has nothing to do, basically, originally with jazz, blues, and rock. It's really coming from continental Europe, from Stockhausen and Pierre Henry and Pierre Schaeffer and Luigi Russolo in the 1910 in Italy, writing the Heart of Noise, and Leon Theremin in Moscow. So we have a real legitimacy, and this is probably one of the best example of what Europe is able to conceive and to create.
We feel European over here because there's people from all over Europe who could come here, and you know, it's a wonderful get together of cultural people here.
Yeah, and you were just calling all the names of the artists, European artists. We should not forget your work about the last decades of electronic music and being into technology.
Yes. What do you mean? What do you want me to comment on this?
Well, we had the talk about Karl-Heinz Stockhausen earlier with the guy from
Heil.
With Reinhold Heil from Hawaii. He made a little video, and we had a chat before we met you now, and he's living on Hawaii, and he was how do you say, relating his composition that he played.
Yeah, it was an ode to Karl-Heinz, he called it, and it was yes, at least a granular sound he played, and this was related to Karl-Heinz Stockhausen's Gesang der Jünglinge, where he recorded snippets of sine waves and transposed them, and was a tape montage, and it was kind of that. So,
and you know, it's very interesting what you're saying about Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. I've been really honored to work in his studio, and when I was in the Music Research Center with Pierre Schaeffer, and you know, it's amazing that these people in the 40s, in the 50s, they invented everything. You know, they were the first DJs in a sense,
Yes.
where you had in the case of Schaeffer, he was in the late 40s already worked on discs by looping, by scratching the disc to create loops even before tape machines.
Do you still work with tape machines? Here and there?
From time to time, yes. It's from time to time, yes. I you know, in everything, I love what I would call the phygital situation, where you work with hardwares and softwares. So for a long time, I was continuing to work with tape machine until now plugins and those are so good that it's more and more possible to work with digital instruments and creating the kind of warmth we were all looking for through tape recorders. So it's really happening to me, but more by using some recording samplings for some sounds existing only on tapes. But I'm less using these days. I'm less using twin multitracks from scratch. I use basically live Ableton. I'm just used to it, and I did a lot of tests between the analog tape, between Pro Tools, between live Ableton, and I must say that the last live Ableton is very, very convincing in terms of quality, and you can do whatever you want. But sometimes, yes, it's still happening to me, but less often than before.
But don't you think that the simulation of a tape machine is enough to understand the vision for a next generation? You know, we had kids today here from a primary school, second to fifth year of going to school, really quite small kids who was making a workshop with iPads, collecting noises in the forest, and on the trade show making a composition out of it. And I always wonder, because I also have kids, about, is that okay to start with all this digital stuff, or isn't it better to start with a real tape to understand the idea and have the thing before you say, okay, I can also simulate it much easier with a modern technique we're using?
You know, Andreas, I think it's not a problem, because what's important is what you do, is the content, is not the machine. I mean, I mean, you could do crap with tape recorders and very exciting music with an iPad. You know, so I think you know, it's not necessary to think that in 2021 we have to go back to the 1940s or 1950s because it should be better. It's different. It's different. It's of course good if some young kids these days, they have a culture of or a history of electronic music, knowing where it's coming from, and then using them. But I don't think that it's what they would do with an iPad would be worse or better than what we have done back in time with tape recorders. It's you know, I'm always thinking that technology is dictating styles, but by the end of the day, you have only 12 notes in music, and what makes the difference is yourself. It's not necessarily the tool you're using.
Yes, in the end, it counts what you do with it, yeah. And the result counts more than the way to get to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, I want really to honor and all these people, partly in these difficult days economically. I mean, being present in Superbooth with fantastic new projects for synthesizers and finding ideas. And I would like to also to share some thoughts I have vis-a-vis and regarding these people. We should stop considering that when something is virtual and when you're using a screen, it should be more or less for free. You know, when lots of people are whining and complaining about the fact that for a few euros you can have a plugin or a virtual synth. They say, it's too expensive. When people have spent months to develop all these with very talented engineers, very talented creators, and you know, we should stop blaming only GAFA. We should blame ourselves. We should put the questions to ourselves. Why hardware? We are okay to pay quite lots of money for hardware when we are discussing for few euros to get a plugin. It's like if suddenly we were considering that culture and music should be free, like the air we breathe, and it's even worse for music, for songs, where authors and composers are not respected. And I hope that this pandemic moment, when we did two things. We went out from our homes to get some food, and then we listened to music, we watched movies, we were reading books. So if we had to prove to ourselves that culture is a basic necessity of human being, because without music, this whole moment would have been a total despair, total desert. So please, people they should now respect musicians, respect technicians, respect engineers, developers, and pay for what it is. And it's a very important message to convey through Superbooth particularly, where you have people getting to Berlin, trying to get an exposure for the audience, and we should respect them, respect their work, and pay for the huge value and the huge effort they are making to push the boundaries of technology.
Thank you very much for this wonderful statement. I just want to give you an impression about you're in the middle of the auditorium. This is your audience here.
Great. So, hello to everybody. It's really great to have you, and it's a big honor to be with you. And sorry not being physically with you all, but I'm with you in spirit, of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Jean-Michel Jarre, who was on our Superbooth in this new way. And I'm very happy that I can be looking forward to welcome you on board for the Superbooth in May 22 that we will make here. And I can only say enjoy your time. Perhaps you have time to look what we're doing here and there.
Of course,
we can also send you a
Andreas.
few links afterwards with our recommendations, because we try to record as much as we can. We had a wonderful evening with your with also the French guy Jan Tiersen yesterday, who played live here. And we will have Hacke de Picciotto, they are in the house. That's Mr. Hacke from Einsturz and Neubauten and Daniel de Picciotto.
So please, Andreas, say hello to all our friends around, artists, and also people, I mean, creating so wonderful products. And we are as geeks, we all, of course, I'm very curious about all the new projects and new things. I'm really frustrated not being with you I mean, physically. But say hello to everybody. Give my love to everybody around. This is our family.
I will do. Thank you very much. And
okay, take care. And talk to you soon.
You
Bye-bye,
too.
Andreas, take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Jean-Michel. Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.